Hi there, good afternoon, and welcome to my presentation. Today we'll be talking about identifying the job degrees. This is going to be an insight into my personal rationale behind deciding the job degrees for the roles that we worked on this case study. Quick intro. My name is Alejandro Martinez. I'm currently a UHD student. I am a junior pursuing an HR management BBA, and I am actually I work as an HR business partner as well professionally for a waste company here in Houston, Texas. A quick agenda overview for today. We're going to go over a little bit of the background of the case study, a little bit over job degrees. Then we're going to go through the rationale breakdown, and then we'll wrap up. Just a quick background of the study. This study was essentially done so that we could understand the complexity about compensation and what happens when we focus the HR management to formulate those specific compensation strategic decisions. And then we essentially started by beginning the job calculation and the evaluation. And then we talked about some job degrees, which is what we're going to talk about today, a little bit more in depth. So just a little bit about job degrees before we get into the rationale behind them, right? So there are a couple of degrees to keep in mind before you actually start assigning job degrees. The first one you'll want to think about is rationale, right? There is a little bit of arbitration when it comes to setting job degrees. So as long as there's rationale, typically the job degree itself is acceptable. Think about also the relevance of the role itself, right? If you are assigning a specific job degree, make it make sense to that job specifically, which then leads to the last thing to keep in mind, which is the resources available, right? Really research the roles, look at job descriptions, look at the market, and make sure that you're aligning with the job degrees that make sense for those specific roles that you're working on. So let's actually dive a little bit deeper into my own breakdown. So I went with 4 degrees specifically for for each of the categories, each 6 of the categories. So for education level, I picked for degree one, high school degree, and for degree two, associate degree. That's pretty self-explanatory, right? Degree one just requires a high school degree for education. Degree two requires an associate. Technical skills for degree one, I labeled it as beginner, and for degree two, I labeled it as intermediate. So those roles in degree one will be a little bit more entry level, so on and so forth, depending on the degree. For scope of control, I put limited for degree one and moderate for degree two. When you're thinking about the roles themselves and you're thinking about the scope of control, degree one to me seemed a little bit more limited. And then degree two is moderate, and we'll get to three and four, which obviously are going to grow a little bit. The impact of the job itself, I thought about the impact of the job at the larger enterprise frame. So for degree one, I picked limited, and for degree two, I picked moderate. Typically, depending on the higher the job degree, the sort of more weighted your job is. And so that's why I wanted to keep it very light in the degree one and two. For problem solving, degree one is routine, degree two is more standard. Degree one is very transactional type of roles when it comes to problem solving, but whereas degree two, there is an actual standard that has to be followed. Task complexity specifically, degree one is simple, and that's why they're a little bit more transactional as far as the problem solving goes, whereas a degree two is more varied. There can be a little bit more variety to it. For degree three and degree four education, I picked bachelor's and then master's. Again, very self-explanatory when it comes to the actual education level. For technical skills, this is where I went a little bit further, right? Advanced for degree three and expert for degree four. Those are usually the roles that are going to need a little bit of more technically savvy individuals. The scope of control for degree three is broad, whereas the scope of control for degree four is enterprise. Those in degree four tend to be those senior leadership and more executive level, right? Because you're impacting the whole enterprise as far as the scope of control. The impact of the job for degree three is significant, and for degree four is enterprise. Very similar to the scope of control, but a degree four maintains that executive level, whereas degree three is a little bit more managerial. Problem solving is complex for degree three and strategic for degree four. Degree three is usually spends their time reacting. Degree four is being proactive. Again, in that if you think about it more at the executive level, that's what that is. And then task complexity, degree three is multifaceted, degree four is highly complex. Those in degree three are going to have a variety again of tasks and their hardship. In degree four, it is continuously just complex tasks that are presented to them. a little bit of reasoning behind what I chose. Consistency, fairness, and legal defensibility. That's just something in HR that's practiced across the board, as well as credibility and stakeholder trust. The decisions that you make are going to make you credible and have you build trust. So that's why it is important to have rationale behind the degrees that you set for these jobs. Thank you so much. If there are any questions after this presentation, my email is on the screen. Really appreciate this case study. I've learned a lot, and thank you.